Big news from our friends at Freedom Homecrafters. They're now Freedom Roofing and Exteriors. Same trusted craftsmanship, now with a sharper focus on protecting the outside of your home so you can feel safe on the inside. Freedom Roofing and Exteriors. Quality, protection, and freedom. Coach Cam is taking KLC method basketball to the next level with training for K through 12th grade and a partnership with the DC Kings and Queens circuit. Athletes now have access to top-level competitive basketball, skill development, and a deeper love for the game. KLC method basketball, where passion meets opportunity. We're building something special at Into the Mindset, but we can't do it without you. If you've gotten anything from these conversations, motivation, perspective, growth, hit that follow button and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and it helps us reach more people who need it. Welcome to Limitless Living Into the Mindset, the podcast that dives into the heart of growth, grit, and what it really means to keep moving forward. Welcome, guys, to Limitless Living Into the Mindset. I'm here today with William Person. He's a former Olympic bobsledder. And today we're going to be talking about CTE awareness and hyperbaric chamber therapy. So from Olympic competition to battling CTE, William shares his journey through brain injury recovery, through hyperbaric oxygen therapy, and his mission to build a nonprofit clinic that can help others suffering from brain trauma. William, welcome to the show. I'm super excited to have you on and talk about this. Seems to be a very heavy topic and trendy topic over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I don't think it's been spoken about enough because I don't think everybody's still connecting the dots. And so I'm gonna try to connect them for you today. So,
well, that's definitely what we're looking for, and I hope to bring more awareness to not only CTE, but the hyperbaric therapy and what it can do, not just for the CTE side, but for overall mental health.
Okay, absolutely.
For somebody, myself, who has struggled with depression and things like that, I've actually looked into hyperbaric chamber therapy before, along with different other therapies. Of course, I wasn't ready to drop the 20 grand or whatever it is to purchase one. So hearing that you're wanting to start kind of a nonprofit up in the St. Louis area where people could come and use hyperbaric therapy, no cost, or, maybe a low cost to them if they can afford
no
that.
Cost.
But,
no cost.
So no cost to them.
No cost. I'll
that's the
why
idea.
in a minute. Yeah.
That's super exciting and something that I can definitely advocate for. And I could tell you from right now, after our few conversations that we've already had and everything prior to this, Limitless Living Into the Mindset, our podcast, amongst other things, other sponsors and stuff, we're really looking forward to helping you out with that journey any way we can.
Oh, I appreciate it. That's like when I actually finally connected the dots, it really blew me away. And it's just disturbing. Like what I'm about to share it's so disturbing once you take a step back and look at the bigger picture. By the way, you said you deal with depression as well?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
About what age did it kick in for you?
I would say for me, it was probably mid to late 20s that I started noticing a lot of, I don't want to say symptoms, but a lot of things that kind of were pointing in that direction. But I actually didn't start to do anything about it until about 2 years ago.
Okay. So my question is this, like, what's your background? What was you doing in high school?
I was a cross country and track athlete in high school.
Cross country and track only?
Yes. Yep. Grew up playing football and things like that, but I didn't have too many sports that were high contact sports. I was kind of a daredevil as a kid though. So I was jumping out of trees and riding dirt bikes and crashing dirt bikes and
Okay.
UTVs and all that stuff. So I'm sure there was probably some brain injury along the way somewhere.
Yeah. And what about the football? What kind of football did you play? Like full contact?
Oh yeah, I just came up through Mighty Might football is what it was called at the time.
Yeah.
But I had stopped playing football by the time I got into junior high, so it
Okay.
wasn't too much contact.
That's what you think, man. That's like it doesn't take much, And I only know this because I met a lot of people along my journey, and I met the housewife who fell down and hit her head one time,
Mhm.
and she's got all the symptoms of people with CTE. And I think I sent you my my post where I Kanye West put out a public apology,
Mhm.
and did you see the public apology he put out?
I did, yeah. Yeah, you
Okay.
sent me the TikTok.
Yeah. Okay. So he put out
Mhm.
his apology, but probably about 6 months before that, I publicly put out there what was wrong with that guy, what happened to him, when, why, and how.
Mhm.
And I just told him he's been misdiagnosed like the rest of us. And what I've learned is like I say, let me give you a little bit of background on me. When I left college, I was working at this place called San Joaquin County Mental Health Department. It was the first mental health facility that was west of the Mississippi River.
Mhm.
So people with extreme behaviors, everybody came there just to get the help they needed. And so I cut my teeth at 23, learned about people with depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. We also had the criminally insane would come through there for court sometime. And we had people with lobotomies walking around back then. And so and then eventually I wound up opening my own treatment facility in my late 20s. I wrote the first ever independent living transitional housing program. And so the state of Utah opened me as a pilot program because it was such new and innovative type stuff. And so mental health was my background before I began bobsledding. And
Mhm.
so I think I was open for 3 years. And then I went full time with the Olympic team. So I wound up closing my doors. But my point is this, like I'm looking at the bigger picture now. It's people like you, you're like the stereotypical American Midwesterner. You jumping out of trees, falling out of trees, dirt biking, you know. And,
Mhm.
and so, with all that being said, like most of these mental health people that are walking around have been misdiagnosed. These are physical injuries
Mhm.
that manifest as a lot of other things. Like for me, when my symptoms were at its worst, I thought I was becoming diabetic because it looked like diabetes. It looked like low blood sugar. I couldn't get out of bed, no energy. Now I'm living off of things I've never drank before, like black coffee and Mountain Dew and Coca-Cola. So, and then I'll take that little thing, I'll get a little boost. I said, okay, this has to be diabetes. So for decades, I'm going to doctors, letting them check me every year, waiting on them to give me the insulin so I can just move on with my life. But they kept telling me, you're not
Mhm.
diabetic. But it didn't make sense to me. And so it's going on with a lot of people here. They're being misdiagnosed. They think this is mental health stuff, but this came from a physical injury. And so what they're doing is they're treating physical injuries with chemical imbalance medication, which is just doesn't work. And that's why if you look at that box, it'll tell you if you take this medicine, you might get more suicidal than
Mhm.
you already are. It's because they're trying to treat a physical injury with a chemical imbalance med. And it is just, if you once I took a step back and looked at the big picture. For example, as a bobsledder, I was trying to help my teammates. The NFL people were trying to help the NFL people.
Mhm.
The our veterans, 11,000, 12,000 suicides every year. So that group's trying to help that group. But until I actually got clear enough to be able to see the bigger picture, because I was at a point where I couldn't talk very well, I
Mhm.
couldn't do simple math in my head anymore. And when I finally cleared up enough, I took a step back and looked at the whole picture. I followed the symptoms. It's all the same stuff. And so
Yeah.
the same way I posted about the Kanye, I did the same thing to the military. I told them all over my posts, all over social media, your diagnosis of PTSD in most cases is wrong. Underneath that is CTE. Follow the
Mhm.
symptoms. And so the veteran agencies, they found me. And I was like, okay, here we go. Here comes the noise. but they told me I'm 100% right and to help them. And so now it's an agency called treatnow.org, and they go state to state to get the approval from legislation to treat veterans with hyperbaric oxygen now. And so I think there's 13 states aboard right now, and they're just going state to state so we can get
That's
everybody's covered. Yeah. Yeah.
that's so amazing that it's starting to become bigger. People are starting to become aware of it and starting to begin to treat it
Yeah.
for what it is. We see that, especially with this particular podcast, we have a lot of doctors and therapists and
Yeah.
experts in those fields on the episode, and we hear more and more about people stepping away from the medical field or our traditional hospitals because they're tired of playing the politics. They're tired of working with
Yeah.
big pharma and things like that, and they're branching out and beginning to say, "Hey, no, we want to put our foot down. We want to start preventing these diseases. We don't want to just treat them. We want to start
Yes.
preventing them. But if they do happen, we don't want to just throw a pill at it."
Yes.
We know now,
Yeah.
my therapist, she's amazing. I did a lot of research to find her. I wanted one that wasn't going to just throw prescriptions at me.
Yeah.
She was holistic. She gave me tools to work with and things like that didn't involve me taking a pill every single day or doing crazy changes in my diet or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was just simple brain tools, little games, things like that I can do that kind of help me through that process, along with different therapies. Like for me, I consider running a therapy. That's why I do it,
Oh, absolutely.
as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then talking with people like you, hyperbaric therapy is a therapy. It's a way that we can do those things. We have people that I had. His name was Ryan Rogers. He was on. He owns his own private practice here in town, and he talks about people kind of like what you were saying. People think that they have these crazy problems, thyroid issues, diabetes, things like that. When
Yeah.
at the end of the day, typically with women who are struggling with weight, struggling to lose weight, struggling with energy and sex drive and things like that, it's not that you have diabetes. It's not that you're the problem. It's that maybe your hormones are off.
Yeah.
So let's treat that. Same thing for men. Why can I sleep 9 hours in a night and wake up and still be tired, still
Yeah.
be foggy, still do
Yeah.
this? Well, I could throw a pill at you, or I could say, let's test your blood and see if your testosterone's low.
Yeah.
And they're starting to treat these for what they are. And it's really nice to hear you say that as far as the CTE goes, that people are starting to look into it more. And they're not saying, oh, it's PTSD or you're just depressed or, whatever it is. There's an actual reason behind it. And this is
Yeah.
what it is. And then these are the logical ways that we could treat it besides just throwing pills at you.
Yeah, but the one problem that I've noticed with that, you have these groups that are actually doing the studies, and then you have these other groups that are fighting the studies. And when you actually go up the food chain, you'll find out at the top of that food chain is usually big pharma.
Mm-hmm.
And so people with my condition normally they take 10, 12, 20 pills a day, and I don't take any pills now. And the pills that they actually gave me made my condition worse. Matter of fact, I made a deal with myself. One of my teammates, Pavle Jovanovic, he wanted to be a writer. And so anybody who knows me, like in my mid-20s, I was doing movies like Jerry Maguire, Any Given Sunday, stuff like that. And so that was kind of my background. And so when I left Team USA, I went back to Hollywood. And so Pavle wanted to be a writer. So he would call me with these crazy concepts that I've never heard of before. And I was like, man, that'll be such great. And matter of fact, at that time, one of my producing partners, he was a lead producer for the Ninja Turtle franchise. And so I'm thinking, man, this is such high concept. I'm going to walk him over there or to Warner Brothers because this is just, high concept stuff. And eventually, the last time he called me, he was speaking some weird gibberish. And I didn't understand anything he said. And he got so frustrated with me that he hung up the phone. And then for the first time, I realized his mind had started to slip. He wasn't giving me new concepts because they got weirder every time. And his mind had already started to fade. And because I used to own facilities and mental health stuff, I told myself every single day, I got to help this guy. And the truth is, I didn't do anything to help him other than say it to myself every day, because I was kind of isolated too at the time, but I didn't understand why I was isolated like I was. But eventually I got the word that he went to his family's factory and he hung himself. And like that guilt just just knocked the wind out of me for a long time. Until I realized like I really couldn't help him. He was in stage 4 already. And that's why he wasn't talking anymore. And he was speaking that weird language. And the truth was I had to accept that, he came into my life to save my life. I wasn't supposed to save his life. Because if it wasn't for his diagnosis, like, even though I'm looking at all my teammates committing suicides one by one. Matter of fact, my driver from the World Championships, Stephen Holcomb, he's won every Olympic medal for America since 2003. He took his life at the Olympic Training Center in 2018. And then there's been so many others. It was like I'm finding about all these suicides and these suicide attempts, and nobody in our community is talking about it. And I'm just thinking, like, wait a minute. And the truth was, I'm sorry, go ahead and cut you off.
No, you're good. We were just talking about that before I stepped into this episode of kind of how crazy this. I don't want to say the word crazy because it's not crazy. But
my girlfriend tell me every day, stop saying crazy.
how interesting it is. Kind of how deep this could go. How deep it probably does go. And how quiet people have been about it. Because like you were talking about with your driver, I didn't hear about, you're talking about a guy who was a decorated Olympic athlete.
Yeah.
I didn't know that he had taken his own life. Why?
They sweep it under the rug.
They
sweep it under the rug. And for me to speak, I filed a class action to get everybody some help. Mm-hmm. And like what I told them is like, my days were kind of numbered. I already knew that. And like, I couldn't kill myself because I was a counselor and I knew the trauma you leave for your family, but I had a prayer I did every day. Like, God, I say, you can come get me any day now, but I won't end it, but I need you to end this for me. Because I didn't want to leave that trauma on the family. But it was just, how long can you sit here and fester? Like, I was suffering. Like, I couldn't really read very well anymore. Comprehend. Well, I can read, but not comprehend what I was reading. I couldn't do basic math. If I go to the store to pay for something, I pay with a $10 bill. I don't know how much change to get back. So here I am swiping credit cards, and just because I can't count anymore, next thing you know, I'm in credit card debt now, like because I had to change my routine, and that's what this thing is. It's affecting everybody. And this is directly tied to our mass shooting rates, 31% to 40, depending on what study you look at, between 31 to 45% of the mass shootings in America are our veterans coming back here. Our American heroes are coming back and turning the guns on us. And then the next population, big population, is people with concussions and head injuries like myself, and then the last little group seems to be mental health or radicalized people. But that's who's committing all the mass shootings, and they all have the same symptoms. And so I'm sure there's a common connection here. And I can't be the first one to have figured this out and I'm just thinking, why am I the only one speaking about it? Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
Unfortunately, it seems these days that people get a lot of their information from the media, not necessarily individualized podcasts like what this is, but, large network media.
Yes.
Is where they're getting their information. And you just kind of went through 3 different groups there. You have soldiers, which tends to be classified as PTSD, which we're finding out might not be the case every time.
Well, they're checking their brains. This is not PTSD. Right. Yeah, they're checking. Yeah. And
then you have what you're talking about, CTE, and then you have these radicalized. And what's crazy is that radicalized one is the last one, the one that is kind of the least of the 3.
Yeah.
But it's the one that gets talked about the most on media and everything. Oh, it's, it's the crazy left. It's the crazy right. It's, things like that. but we're not talking about the soldier. We're not talking about the athlete or
Yeah,
the football player or, things like that.
absolutely.
So I think that's where kind of it's hard to stand up for something that you don't know. So I just really implore people to get away from your mainstream media and start to look at the smaller guys that are trying to get some of the
Yeah,
information out there, whether it's my podcast or anybody else's, I don't care, but
yes,
find the information and start to listen to people like you who is living through it. This
yeah,
isn't just some news anchor that's reading off a script right now. This is your real life that you're talking about here. That's
yeah.
what we need more of.
Yeah, absolutely. As a matter of fact, once I filed the case versus the Olympic team, like first thing, I only asked for a couple things, two things. Number one, I said transparency. I said only thing that's non-negotiable is warn the athletes before they start bobsledding so they understand what's down the road for them because there's too many people. It's not like it's one or two of us. It's literally hundreds of us that are sick, and it's a global issue. It's going on all around the world. It's not just here. It's when I started this thing, it was just about American athletes, but then I quickly realized it was not. It's a global issue. But I was thinking my group, my peers, and so yeah, that's what this thing really is. So we really need. We'll put it this way: once I filed the lawsuit, the big media really didn't touch my media bites anymore because they're owned by the people who sponsor the Olympics.
Right.
And so whereas I'm telling people like these Olympic athletes are dying all around the world, around our country, and we just need help, I'm coming with an answer because it saved me. Joe Namath is the person who gave me the information that saved me. If it wasn't for Joe Namath, I don't think, man. What I can tell you is once I listened to my lawyers and tried the meds, every window I looked at began to look like a swimming pool. I just wanted to just run through them every day until I stopped taking those meds, but it's also the reason why I was able to help diagnose Kanye because I'm listening to what he was saying. And all his media bites is about him not taking meds anymore. The meds making him sick, meds. Then I'm watching his behavior. He looked just like a CTE candidate, that explosive behavior, then he's calm all of a sudden. Same thing over and over, and matter of fact, if he didn't have a song out called "Spit Through the Wire," I would have never been able to connect the dots. He said he never said a concussion, but he said he broke his jaw. Then I started thinking, wait a minute, he had a concussion because he hit that jaw. It was in the back of his mouth. He had to have a concussion, and they gave him the same treatment that they gave the rest of us, which is nothing. When it comes to a concussion, they tell you just to don't go to sleep for the first few hours. That's the treatment, and that's the problem. Matter of fact, as an athlete, I'm sure you probably pulled muscles before, right?
Yes.
Okay, so every time you pull a muscle, you know what happens. You get that swelling and inflammation in there.
Mm-hmm.
So for 72 hours, no heat, absolutely no heat, just ice and compression. And then you have like a 6-week plan to get that inflammation out and to heal the muscle. However, when you get a concussion, it's the same thing. You get inflammation to that area. How do you remove it? They don't. They let it sit there. And I believe when it festers, and then eventually, I believe that's what CTE is. You let it fester up there, and you cutting off blockages to certain parts of the brain now. And I believe that's what this is because I was in dementia, and my doctors didn't even tell me I was in dementia. I'm there every year to doc, I'm cloudy, I'm confused. I think it's diabetes. So they're checking my blood work. They never checked my brain, but I was in dementia, and I didn't know it until I came out of it. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. I didn't know any of my days. I don't know what day it is every day. I don't know what month we're in. I don't know where I'm at sometime. I'm getting lost coming home. Fuckers, I was in dementia. Nobody told me. Like, they let me just go on about my life. They looking at me like, oh, this guy, he's 6'1", he's still 220, looks like an athlete. She's strong. But I was dying. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we talk about, like I said, we've had people on here before, and a lot of doctors have talked. We just had a physical therapist on last week as well. She was talking about inflammation in the body, inflammation in the muscles, inflammation throughout the body, really, and how harmful it can be to us. And a lot of adults are walking around with inflammation throughout their body that they don't even know about. That could be
Yes.
causing a lot of different negative effects on the body, including brain fog, mental
Yeah.
health, things like that. So the fact that we're talking, I mean, when she was talking about it, she was talking about it as far as, muscles in the leg, muscles in the arms,
Yeah.
core muscles, back muscles. But we're talking about the brain,
The brain.
one of the most, if not the most important part of our body that has inflammation in it, like you said, after you have concussion or things like that.
Yeah.
It's the most important part of our body. And we're just like, just make sure you don't go to sleep.
Yeah. That was
If we would take care of our legs, if we're going to take care of our arms, our back, and all that stuff, I mean, look at all the things we have for recovery for our back.
Yeah.
But what do we have for recovery for our brains?
Nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing.
So that leads me into the hyperbaric therapy. Explain to us a little bit more about that. What kind of got you interested in that, or what led you to trying that out? And then let's break down the science of it and get into kind of the science and everything of it and why it helps with traumatic brain injuries or CTE.
You want the PG-13 version or you want the real story?
Hey, you do what you need to do.
All right, I'm gonna give you the real story.
All right.
All right. So, man, like I said, I was out of it. I was out of it, and so eventually, my teammate's autopsy report came up, and he was in stage 4 of CTE. And so before that, I still didn't know what this thing was. I'm still thinking it's diabetes. But there was an article that came out written by the New York Times called Sledhead. And I literally read the article, and I got on my knees and thank God all the symptoms missed me. And I sent an article to my girlfriend at the time, which is now my fiance. And she read it, and she circled some things and sent it back. And at that time, we were kind of living separately because I couldn't stand the noise she was making in the house. Like, she was just on the phone with her family. It was during COVID. We locked in there together, and that noise was killing my head. So I went back. I had a lake house in the Midwest I purchased. I was going there to die, to be honest, because I was getting lost in my community in Los Angeles. And so I bought that place to go die in. And so the first thing I saw that she circled was noise sensitivity. And I went, oh. Then I went down that list and I checked every box except for maybe Parkinson's. And so now this thing, I know what my boogeyman really is. Now I'm talking to my teammates. Everybody's dealing with the same stuff. And so we know this is CTE because Pablo was in stage 4, and that explains a lot of the other suicides and suicide attempts. And so my algorithm on my phone changed. So now I'm looking for CTE remedies or things like that. And it was scary because all you see is this person with CTE killed this person or they killed themselves. I'm thinking like, my God, I can't beat this thing. And so eventually Joe Namath had some videos out. Are you familiar with Joe Namath?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. His videos,
not like super familiar, but yeah, I've heard the name and some.
Yeah, he played football before my lifetime, so he was in the 60s. He was like the first flamboyant quarterback. Like, he was on the sidelines with fur coats on in the 60s before, I wasn't even born then. So, but yeah, this guy, man, he showed up with these videos saying he used hyperbaric oxygen to reverse his symptoms. But he didn't give us details. He didn't tell us what his symptoms were and how it helped. He just said it reversed. So I kind of went into this thing blindly, and there was a place in Orange County, California that let me come down and try it. And I went in and I tried it. And my glasses were slightly tinted, if you can't tell, because I'm sensitive to light, smells, and sounds. And so when I come out of that chamber, everything is the colors are so vivid and pretty. And I'm just thinking, this is weird. It's almost like I don't really recognize where I'm at anymore. Like, it's just, and so I guess I wasn't seeing colors. I'm not really so sure about that or not, but I know everything was just pretty. And so I take my glasses, and the salesman sees me putting them on and taking them off. And he comes over and he's like, hey, what's wrong? I said, I don't know. I don't think I need my glasses right now. And he says, oh, you're one of those. And I'm like, okay, he's finna try to sell me this machine. Man, I just bought the lake house to go die. I don't have money for this machine. That's what I'm telling myself. But this guy was right. Some people get immediate relief, And some people need like 30 days of 2 sessions a day. And so I get home that night and I fall asleep on the couch about 9 o'clock watching TV. And I remember waking up about midnight. His migraine woke me up. And part of this condition, you get migraines and vertigo a lot. And so this migraine woke me up and I was like, my God, and I was wondering, did this machine hurt me or help me, or I'm not sure. And the truth was I had a migraine with an erection, which is never in my life ever happened. Nobody ever says, baby, I got a migraine, let's go make love. You're like, get away from me. You know, you don't want you don't want anybody in your space when you have those migraines. But something was being rewired at that very moment that I tried the chamber, because it was doing something to me and I didn't know. So in the morning when I woke up, it was about 8, 9 o'clock. Migraine is gone, erection is still there. And I'm just thinking, my God, well, this is like 13 hours. Like what, you know, I know when they say on the box of Viagra, they say if you try that, if you have an erection longer than 4 or 5 hours, go to the hospital. So I'm nervous. I'm thinking like, I remember those stories about those boxes, you know, but over the next few hours, that cloudiness I had for over a decade was gone. And it lasted for about 6 days or so. And they let me come back the end of that next week. And then I had 9 days of clarity. And so then, like, this is my machine behind me. This is the one I use in my home. I keep that thing, you know. And so whenever I'm feeling not the best, you know, when I'm feeling off, I hop back in there. Or if I'm really smart, I'll just continue to get in there all the time and not wait on the backlashes when I don't feel well. But yeah, so that's what I've been doing, and it's changed my life. And so now it's like I found out the military, they're doing the same thing. So I've been helping those guys. And some of the NFL players, you hear them talking about using the chamber. But I think a lot of them are using it for different reasons. They think it's because it oxygenates all your cells and stuff. So it's like you're getting recovery. Your recovery. Like for a runner, you would love this thing. Yeah, I wish I knew about this when I was an athlete. Yeah.
That was one of the initial reasons I had looked into it, just to basically oxygenate the muscles to help with recovery, faster recovery and things like that. So that was initially why I had first looked into hyperbaric therapy and was trying to find a facility that you could use it in. And then I started to see more and more stories and articles, kind of like what you said. Once you look into something, you know, our phones are always listening to us now. So it starts to pop up on your Facebook and everything else. So I started reading more articles on it and started seeing the benefits that it can have for mental health. And I want to go back a little bit. You were talking about, you know, all the different changes, the kind of weird changes that have happened to your body after your first session.
Well, something you just said about helping your mental health. See, and this is where my philosophy is a little different than most. Now that I've met these people who hit their head one time and have the same symptoms, I believe a lot of these mental health things aren't really mental health things. This is a physical injury. It looks like mental health, but it's not. It's a physical injury. And that's why when I got in that chamber the first time, like my cloudiness was gone. Like it just, you know, it's not perfect. It's not like I'm back 100%. I'll never be 100%, but I'm not laying on that floor begging for death every day. And that's the difference.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to kind of get into. I say mental health because it's the term that we typically use, but what I was going to get into is people forget. I know it's crazy that we forget about this, but our brain is what makes everything function throughout our body. Our organs, our muscles, our tissue, everything. Our veins, tendons, everything. Our brain is what is sending the signals. Absolutely. If there's something wrong with our brain, then there's going to be mixed signals throughout our body.
Yes.
So I agree 100%. It's definitely physical that looks like mental health, but what you just proved right there when you said, I did my first session, I came out, I had a migraine with an erection, and it was weird, and I've never felt that way before, I wouldn't do that, blah, blah, blah. It's because your brain is all of a sudden trying to reorganize those signals that it has been sending out or not sending out for years. Yeah. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, I can do this again. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's do this. And it's probably kind of overwhelming after that first session, but then your body starts to rebalance, or your brain starts to rebalance itself. And now
Yeah.
physically, not mentally, physically, your body's functioning at the level that it's supposed to be functioning.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely was a huge change for me. Matter of fact, if you look at on my social media, when I right before I started using hyperbaric, my hair was bald and it was thinning and coming out. Just wasn't growing like it used to grow. And like people are on online. I got trolls online sometimes asking me why am I wearing this wig? Like, they're really trying to insult me. But the truth is, man, they're giving me the best compliment I ever heard in my life. Because like I used to tell my children, I said, you girls lucky I don't have long hair because I'd be a rock star. And so, and I've been telling them that their whole life. So now my hair is longer than my children's hair, my daughter's hair, and they're like,
Yeah.
because you get a certain level of arrogance come back when your hair come
There is
back
that
out of
Lenny
nowhere.
Kravitz kind of look to it, isn't there?
Yeah, man, it was and like I used to do a little bit of modeling and stuff, and the truth was like I was always with my dad. I remember my dad being in his 30s, always talking about I think my hair's thinning. Is my hair coming out? And so it just planted that seed. So for me, my whole life, I was thinking, man, I'm gonna go bald just like my dad. And so after we shot Jerry Maguire, I didn't need a job for a while. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna face my demons. And so I had my girlfriend at the time. We buzzed my head, and I forgot I had a doctor's appointment, and I didn't have any hats, man. So I went to the doctor's appointment, and his doctor told me, he said, "Hey, no disrespect." He's like, "Hey, my buddy owns the biggest modeling agency here in Phoenix. He would love to have you on his roster." And I didn't take him up on that, but eventually I did start modeling. But the truth is, like, my worst nightmare was going bald, and then once I was bald, it was like that's the look Hollywood liked, and it made me a lot of money over the years. And so now for me to have hair grow back, it's like what But no, I'm loving it. I'm just loving it. But I'm not sure if the chamber did all this or not. But I know a lot of people report about their eyebrows starting to grow thicker. So I don't know. Maybe it's the same thing. I don't know, and I don't want to make that claim. I don't want a bunch of people going out here trying to get in the chamber because they think their hair's going to grow back. Then they're going to be mad at me later. But
Well,
it
and
will
there's
make you
just some
feel
people.
better.
I don't know if we could handle like Dwayne Johnson with hair again. Just
Yeah, trust me. Yeah, it's just I've never in my life had my hair blow in the wind before. Like, I just yeah. And when I first left Team USA, I bought my dream car. I had a Porsche 911 convertible, and I always had buzzed hair. Like, so now that my hair grows and let the hair blow in, oh my god, like it's such a good feeling. I'm sorry, guy. I know I know taking us in the wrong direction here, but
no, but
yeah,
you make a really good point, and like you said, we can only speculate if it was the chamber or what it was, but I just want to go back to what the brain does for us.
yes,
And yeah, we could get into the real like biology of it, what it does for our muscles and internally and everything, but also externally, what it can do when we have actual, like, we're feeling joy in our life again.
yes,
We're feeling community in our life again. We
yes,
have the right people in our life again, and we can actually feel that happiness again. What that can do for us physically as well.
yeah,
When our body is regulated correctly and we're getting the dopamine hits and those endorphins and things like that, I think you'd be surprised what the body's capable of doing. You can
absolutely,
build muscle based off of that. You could grow hair off of that. You can do all
absolutely.
those things because your brain is functioning at the level that it needs to be functioning.
Yeah,
Again, it goes
and
back to
that's
the
yeah.
physical level.
Yeah, I believe that's what happened to me. As a matter of fact, I just got engaged about a month ago. So I'm
Congratulations.
55. Thank you. I'm 55. This is my first engagement in my whole life. Because I mean, I've met a amount of beautiful ladies in my life, and it's I can't even blame any of them. It was just me. For a long time, I couldn't see the beauty in anything, which is like if I could go back and look at the red flags now, like that was one of them. Like I couldn't see beauty. One time, one of my friends took me out to I think it was like for my 35th birthday, and she said, "Tell me something about your childhood. Give me your one funny story." And I literally couldn't come up with anything beautiful. And I had a great childhood, a loving family, and And I just had a meltdown on my birthday because I'm just thinking gloom and doom. And
Mm.
that's what this thing does to you. And I have a formula that I've actually, and that actually, my God, like I've been able to apply it to so many people. And that's how I figured this thing out. When you hit the head just that proper way, you have a 10-year ticking time bomb in your head. Like you're going to see some symptoms in between that 10-year period. And you're going to kind of dismiss them. For me, like sometimes I didn't recognize some of my ex friends, my ex girlfriends, or things like that. Like I couldn't recognize their faces anymore. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, I wouldn't know where I'm at. I had to turn the lights on and look around. And I'm thinking, okay, I travel a lot because of Team USA, so maybe that must be why. I just, you're always rationalizing these things. But when I got to the 10-year point, I knew something was wrong, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. But then after that 10-year period, you got another 4 to 6 years where you're going to become either suicidal or homicidal. And I'm not being exaggerating. Now, if you look at our mass shootings of our veterans, they'll tell you that it's 6,400 per year, but there's an additional 5,000 that overdose every year. And even if they leave a suicide note, they don't count that as a suicide. So we're looking at 11, 12,000 veteran suicides every year. And it's just the same thing over and over. Look at our NFL players. They're all these guys are all married men. Now they're all living separate from their spouses because they're erratic. And probably those ladies are probably afraid for their life, and so that's what begins to happen. But it's the same thing in all these different populations. And it's like, yeah,
So,
go ahead.
so with the NFL, not that I want to give any broad excuse or anything to some of the actions of certain players and things like that, but do you feel that head trauma, CTE, can contribute to some of the domestic abuse and things like that we see pretty common in the NFL?
It's not what contributed to it. It's what's causing it. I'm going to go that extreme. It's what's causing it. Matter of fact, you can see it in some of these players' eyes. Like when you get a chance, go back and look at Antonio Brown. And I hate to just call names out like that, but look at his eyes and go back a few years ago. He wasn't like that. You can see when these things kick in. Matter of fact, this young man, he did the Sandy Hook killing. He did that shooting at 20. One night, something telling me to get up and look at this guy. And so I get up and I'm looking at his pictures and I'm watching his pictures, his age progression. You can tell right in his eyes when the change happened. And I said, okay, well, let me apply my formula. And I figured I had to be wrong because, you got a 10-year period and you got another 4 to 6 years. So he did the shooting at age of 20. So I subtracted. So a 10-year period. So about him being at 10, he's going to start having some major problems. And then another 4 to 6 years, somebody exposed him to something explosive. So I said, I have to be wrong because only gun can do that would be a shotgun blast. Who would expose a shotgun blast to a 4-year-old? So I went through 4 documentaries before I found that his mother was an avid shooter, and that's what they did together. And so she put a shotgun in his hand at the age of 4, or he was around those explosions. And so you ask me, okay, well, why would this kid, be the exception? Well, if you follow his background, he was born with the symptoms we get when we get sick from CTE. He came here like that. So his skin couldn't be touched. He couldn't, he was really antisocial because he didn't like people touching him. And when he threw tantrums, he was a headbanger. So he would bang his head on the ground or walls or whatever. So he was also concussing himself. Mm-hmm. But it's all right there, guys. If you look into the backgrounds hard enough, like there was a gentleman who just shot up the hockey game. He was I want to say cross-dressed. I don't know if that's the right word, but he was transitioning to be a woman. Mm-hmm. And he went to his children's hockey game. This was about 3 weeks ago. He killed his son and he killed his ex-wife and somebody else. And they was like, well, what would make him do that? And number one thing, a lot of people who transition, so a lot of times they have depression issues. And I said, I would like to see what meds they took. Mm-hmm. I'd be surprised if it was a Zoloft in there. Zoloft seems to be one of the ones that causes a lot of those issues. And they did the same thing for me. But also, they was like, okay, well, what else would cause it? And I'm thinking, okay, well, his kids played hockey. So more than likely, he played hockey. And when I first started talking about this, the hockey players were the first ones who reached out to me to thank me for helping them. The CTE in the hockey community is awful. It's really bad in hockey, NFL, of course. And so I'm believing he probably played hockey as well. But I went online to try to figure out if he played hockey. There's no record of him doing anything before he was transitioning. So, but I'm pretty confident he probably played hockey. So anybody who's listening, if his family ever sees this, maybe they can confirm that for us or not. But those are the kind of things you have to look for. And the doctors are have it wrong. Like if you go to the doctor and you're acting a little bit wigged out, something's not right, they're going to ask you about what are your symptoms today? And that is the wrong answer. I mean, wrong question. The real question is they need to be asking, where were you 10 years before this? What were you doing 10 years ago? And that's really what the answer is here. And because seems to be a 10-year gestation period for this.
Gotcha. So I've heard you a few times, you've been talking about CTE and all the sports that cause it and everything, but I've never heard you mention don't do these sports. You've never, put a marker on it. It was like, hey, don't play football, don't be a bobsledder, don't play hockey. I've never heard you say, out of the two long conversations that we've had, I've never heard you say don't do these things.
Yeah.
But what can you recommend, or what's your thought on the things that you can do as an athlete to be able to perform at a high level in these sports, but also protect your brain while you're doing it?
Well, the truth is, my philosophy is people are they're going to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. Even with me wanting the Olympic athletes about this sport, where we know that they knew this stuff was going on, they hid it from us. That really burns me up. Like, I think people who do that, they should be replaced in the sport and put responsible people in there who could actually help you if these things start to arise. Now, if you do bobsledding, you're going to get it. It's just nowhere around that. If you play football, more than likely you're going to get it. If you play hockey, you're going to get it. It's just a matter of time. It's just the nature of these sports. But my thing is, my goal is to open this thing up to the American public. Like, my facility is going to be free. And I want to catch people when they first have this issue, because if I remove the inflammation, it's not going to fester. They can continue on with their life and be productive and have fun lives. But the thing is, our brains weren't designed to do the things we're doing. We were designed to do the things that the way they show Amish people on TV, like they only just walk around real slow and just plant flowers. That's what we was really designed to do. We're not designed to jump off bridges and motorbikes and jump out of trees and, or go down the biggest mountains I could find in the world and push my sled down it and go wee. Like, it's not designed for that.
So much fun though.
Yeah, you know what? It's so much fun. It was so much fun. And so I wouldn't tell people not to do the sport, but if I could ban them sports, I would ban those sports, be honest, because I know that only because the right people aren't in place to help the people. Like, if they were there to really help them, they would make sure that they had access to these chambers. As a matter of fact, the Israeli government, like, every soldier who comes off that battlefield has to go into a hyperbaric chamber in order to remove the inflammation off the brain. But we're not doing that here in America, But we know what this thing is, and it's just, you just got to fix it. It's not that difficult. And
hey, if we're gonna fight with them, we might as well learn from them a little bit.
Absolutely, you have to. You really, really have to. And matter of fact, the British military people, they take their soldiers to the middle of the ocean. Well, they go actually to the Bahamas, and they take their people down there for about 2 weeks. They go deep sea diving. And it does the same thing. Like, it does it naturally. This thing is synthetic for what they do. Like, I'm simulating going down in the ocean. And actually, when you go down past 9 feet, your blood is more like a gas. So it can your body can now send blood and oxygen to all your blockages, and and that's really what the matter of fact. I used to help Jamie Foxx out on a few projects, and so a few years ago, it was rumored that he had a stroke on the set with Cameron Diaz. And so I called in. I said, "Hey guys, first of all, I don't want to be responsible for the outleaks. So don't tell me what's wrong with Jamie. I don't want to know. And I said, but if it's a stroke, I said, look at the technology on hyperbarics. They say it'll reverse any stroke. You just have to get them in there. And I'm not saying he used it or didn't use it. I don't know, but that's what the science tells you.
Mm-hmm.
There was another guy. I saw this story on ESPN probably about 5 months ago during football season. The strength coach for the University of Houston was in stage 4 of melanoma cancer. They gave him 4 to 6 weeks to live. And they said everything that he was doing, the doctors asked him, it wasn't working. And so he tried non-traditional. They showed him going into a hyperbaric chamber. And now his numbers are normal. And so they always say that cancer can't live in oxygenated environments. And so a lot of doctors now are putting people in there before they start chemo, during chemo, and after chemo. I know people who doing this and they're doing hyperbarics and they have cancer and they're hiking every day because it just gives you energy. And it's not that caffeine kind of energy. You just feel strong and, it's natural.
Yeah. I mean, it's the dopamine hit. It's a natural energy.
Yeah.
While you were talking through that, it just had me thinking back to kind of what I was saying earlier. People don't realize how much inflammation affects the body. The more inflammation we have in the body, the more susceptible we are to all of these diseases like diabetes, like heart disease,
yes,
and things like that. I don't know how much inflammation plays into cancer. Maybe there's some cancers that it plays a part in. But again, inflammation in the body it's a problem. And so anytime you can do anything to reduce that inflammation in the body, to reoxygenate the blood and get, basically new oxygen flowing to the blood, I mean, the science speaks for itself. There's not much more you have to do to sell this idea.
Yeah.
I mean, it's your science right there.
Yeah, it really is. Most of the diseases that get us, like you said it, but most people don't understand that. Yeah, it's the inflammation in our body or inflammatory diseases. It's what's getting us. And that's what bothers me the most. I'm thinking, if you guys know that and there's inflammation in the brain from these concussions, why are you allowing it to just sit there? Like, why,
Well, my stepfather always tells me whenever I'm questioning, how politics are or just things in life, he always tells me to follow the money.
Yes.
And, these chambers they're not cheap. And you look at the NFL and what they've kind of had to go through once CTE became a large issue and people were kind of like, what are you going to do about it? Well, now they've had to shell out millions, maybe even billions of dollars as far as the testing that they have to do now and what these players have to go through for certain things. And, it's always kind of bugged me sitting in a room full of other people watching the game and, your starting running back gets helmet to helmet hit and they throw him in the tent and everybody's like, oh no.
Yeah.
That's, and they get mad about it. And it's like, come on, guys. Like, these are human beings as well.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that they're okay and go through that. But I think that that's a big reason. Well, I think money is a big reason that we don't see it. The NFL was capable of funding what they needed to fund for their players. And I'm sure that there's still way more that they could do. I mean, you don't see a Chambers. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. I haven't been in very many NFL locker rooms or training facilities, so maybe they do have chambers in there, but you don't see them talking about hyperbaric therapy very often as far as football players go. But what I do hear is ex-football players talking about the side effects of depression and things like that.
Yeah.
What I've heard from them, though, is it kind of gets like pushed into a category of, well, you spent all of these years in front of thousands and thousands of people in loud stadiums chanting your name and walking out of the tunnel. And so it's just been dopamine hit at these high levels. And then once you retire, you don't get that dopamine high like what you
Right.
would get during playing. And so it kind of gets pushed in that category, which I'm sure that that is some of it,
I
but
don't
it's
believe
not
it
all
is.
of it.
I don't believe it is at all.
So,
Because they
but
asked me the
that's kind
same
of,
thing. I applied it to myself. Like when I left Team USA, this is the truth. For me, I dealt with things that other people didn't have to deal with out there. And matter of fact, they got audited in 2022, I believe, by an outside agency. And inside that agency, inside the report, it actually mentions the good old boy system. So I was one of very few brown athletes out there. And like matter of fact, one year I came into camp. Remember after the World Championships, I pushed Stephen Holcomb in the top 10 in 2003. The next year, I'm either number one or number two brakeman in the country, based off of the previous year's results. So, but the bobsled team wouldn't fund me to go to camp. I had to fund myself. And once I got
mhm.
to camp, they told me, they had another athlete come to me and tell me when the federation comes to Canada, they were going to pick up the tab and the Olympic team's going to be, since they're paying for it, I won't have a place to stay. And we all won these, we all won these cell phones in the World Championship. So we all had the same national team. We all had the same number, one digit off. So I called the coach and he wouldn't answer my calls. And then a few days later, he sends that message to me again. And I called from my phone. He wouldn't answer. I called from the other guy's phone who gave me the message. And this coach answers the phone. And I said, hey, Chuffy, what's going on? I was told I won't have a place to stay. I don't understand what this is. He said, oh, each driver only gets one funded athlete. And I said, Tuffy, I've been here for 2 weeks already. Stephen Holcomb is my roommate. I know the whole story. Is that the story you sticking to? And so he got a little quiet, started to study. I'll see what I can do. So a few weeks later go by, the Federation comes to Canada. They move us to a new hotel. He gives me a room. I have a new roommate. I recognize that guy from the year before. He was the track janitor. He was like, he wanted to clean this, make this ice smooth and wiped off our sleds for us and stuff like that. And I was like, welcome to the team. I said, how was your ticket to get here? Expensive. And he told me the craziest story. And he's like, no, he said he went to the first training camp. He finished last. He said, then he got injured. And he was just laying around at the Olympic Training Center. And coach asked him if he wanted to go to Canada. They were going to pay for it. And I was like, he said, what if I had to lose? And I was like, what? I'm the number one guy in the country. This guy is going to be an alternate to an alternate to an alternate. But it was those kind of things. And so what happened to me, matter of fact, the next Olympic year, training camp, day number one, I had the fastest push time. On day number two, I had the fastest push time. On day number three, they kicked me out of camp in Canada. They was like, Will, you didn't have any races last year, international races, so, you can't compete. You can't push the national team right now. We're going to let you practice with the girls' teams. And I said, I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, well, you didn't have any races. I said, is that the only reason? He said, yeah. He said, but don't worry. The coaches know how well you're pushing. I said, I know they do. That's why you guys are kicking me out. I said, and go back and check your records. I had 10 international races last year. I came back after my car accident. He said, oh, you did? I said, yeah, I did. But they still kicked me out. So those are the things that I dealt with when I was on Team USA. So when I left the sport, I kind of left with my tail between my legs. I was happy to get away from these guys because it's just, the racism there was it is what it is. But on my first day up there, this one guy who worked there told me, he said, well, it's the good old boy system here, but it's getting better. And I didn't believe him because at that time, my ex-girlfriend was the number one hurdler for Germany. So I traveled with the Germans a lot. And so here I am traveling, eating with the Germans, traveling with them, staying in their places. But the racism is back in America. It was like really hard for me to believe. But eventually it showed me that, matter of fact, there was an updated audit that came out I think it was about a year ago, based off of that. And it still mentions the good old boy system. And it's all in writing. If you ever want to see it, I don't mind sharing it. But that's what I dealt with. So when I left the sport, my symptoms kicked in and they were kicking my butt. I just didn't know what they were because people weren't talking about it. And when I left the sport, I didn't really talk about the sport for a long time. If you introduce me, I hate people introduce me. First of all, they're going to try to introduce me as the Olympic champion. I'm not the Olympic champion, and that's number one because most people don't know much about bobsledding in America. And I was so hurt about my experience with them. I spent 9 years out there. And so I'm just saying, when I left the sport, I didn't leave and my symptoms kicked in because I was missing being discriminated against or mistreated. No, absolutely not. I miss a lot of my teammates that are good people, but the politics was just, unbearable. And
Yeah,
so,
we've heard more and more about that. It it's interesting. We live in a world now with social media and everything where you start to get uh more inside looks into different corporations and federations and things like that. And now
yeah,
we've even had a few movies come out that have talked about the Olympic Federation and how they go about things and stuff like that.
yeah,
I even think back to, Prefontaine and some of the stuff that he had to go through as far as the Olympic trials and some of those issues. And I mean, he's one of the greatest
yeah,
runners of all
yeah.
time. Um,
I love competing
Now,
in
of
that
course, at
stadium.
that time we were dealing with, Russia and things like that, but
Yeah,
there was still politics that were at play there. And
yeah,
I think that's a big portion of the Olympics. That's what I was talking to with the production team before the episode was, you know, we're probably, as far as the Olympics goes, it's probably not getting looked into as much again because of the money
it's the
and what would
money.
have to go into
Yeah,
testing these athletes. And now, if an athlete tests where he's, at a certain stage, you'll have to get into some of that. If there's like a certain stage or what it is that they shouldn't be competing or anything like that. And
yeah,
now they can't compete. Well, now what do we do? Well, now we have to go to our alternate or that alternate. And well, I don't want to do that. I want the best guy out there representing our country. So we're just going
yeah,
to ignore this.
yeah, yeah, and that's what it seems to be, And but there's, they've just got to figure out a better way of they just got to change the sport because the New York Times, when they put that article out called Sledhead, they tested one of their tracks in Canada. It's the one where they shot the movie Cool Runnings at. It's one of the
Hmm.
mildest tracks on our circuit. I can literally take a nap on that track, and it's not very violent at all. But there were micro spikes of 84.5 G forces. If you hold 84.5 G forces long enough, it'll kill you. And one time we took fighter pilots on a bobsled ride, and I thought they were pulling 10 or 12 Gs, but I originally found out that they were only pulling 6 Gs. And so on the bobsled, we're pulling 5 to 6 Gs. And so on that day, I
Hmm.
did I did 7 rides the day they came out. And they did one smooth ride, and they were rattled. And that never made sense to me until another article by the New York Times came out. And I think it was in December 2024. And it spoke about the pilots having all these neurological diseases. And it was the same ones that we're all dealing with. And so I was like, oh my God, I know what this is. They have exactly what we have from bobsledding. It's the G forces. So I took that article and I shared it with my class action attorneys, and I took it to share it with the judge. And I'm really only trying to help. And so
Hmm.
literally within hours, that article was scrubbed from the internet. But the New
Hmm.
York Times sent me an active link where I could continue to share it or print it out if I need to. But that's what we're dealing with. There's a lot of forces here that don't want to talk about this stuff, and a lot of it has to do with my case because I'm really just shedding the light. I'm really just the messenger. Like it's just, they're finding this stuff in the housewives who had domestic violence.
Hmm.
It's some people who had car accidents. And remember, Kanye West was a billionaire. So how can I be the only person who diagnosed him properly? My video is time stamped. You can't
Hmm.
undo what I did. And I tagged his people in it and all the media sources. So now the media is finding me and asking me, how'd you figure that out? There's a formula. You got 10 years and 6 years. You're going to become
Hmm.
either suicidal or homicidal. Everybody across the board. And so if you look at the 13,000 veteran suicides every year, you look at the NFL, every 2, 3 days, there's a suicide. Go look at the hockey players. Go look at all the retired hockey players. I bet most of them can't stand. It's the same stuff over and over. We just get it different ways. The military getting it from the G forces pilots. The ground people are getting it from the compression blast. Anything hit you in the face, those waves, bobsledders, concussions, G forces.
Hmm.
It's all the same stuff, just different ways of getting it. And the
Yeah.
thing of it is, there's a smooth treatment. You get in this chamber, or you go deep sea diving, and it'll take that off of you. And my goal is to provide this to the American people for free because, as you know, if you need 30 days of sessions and it's minimum of $200-300 a day, you're looking between $12,000 to $20,000 just to get through the first month. And that's the problem with this thing. But I've had this machine since 2022 when I started. I have about 600 and something hours on it. It doesn't cost me anything to turn it on and help the next man. And so that's what I really need help with right now. My 501c3 is complete. I have the building that we want to do it in. I have the rental properties to house the people. If you need 30 days, I got it. Like, I have everything we need already. I just need help with the build out and getting more equipment. And there's chamber companies who want to partner with us. And so I need help raising another probably a couple $100,000. And we have our own little city. And so everybody can fly in, especially our veterans. We got to get these guys because they're the ones who are pulling the trigger right now. And just think about it. They're American heroes. They didn't come back here to kill us. They're they need help. And it's so simple. Get them in the chamber and it's going to reverse it. It's going to calm that stuff down.
So what is a message that you'd want to leave with someone right now who may be struggling with the effects of a brain injury or CTE?
Well, more than likely, what I've realized, just like myself and all my teammates, if you're struggling with it, you're not going to get this message. You're not going to understand this message, and you're probably not going to process this message. It's the loved ones. It's the people around them. That's who saved me. Because even though the New York Times, they diagnosed me in an article, and I got on my knees to thank God the symptoms missed me. I sent that same article to all my teammates, all the same thing. Oh, no, I'm good. Until they start talking, then you start hearing all the weird stories. I'm thinking, you're not good. Share this with your loved ones. And if you feel the need to call me back, call me back. And every single time, my phone was like, oh my God, I didn't know that's what this was. And so my thing is, it's the loved ones. It's not the people dealing with it can't process. That's why they're doing such awful things. And the best way to look at it is like this. We see it all the time. Every time somebody commits a mass murder or suicide or harms anybody, everybody around them say the same thing. They just weren't acting like themselves. That's the answer. If they're not acting like themselves, what's wrong with them? And where were they 10 years before this started? And then you'll get your answers. It didn't just happen last week or 2 weeks ago. This is something that's been brewing on the brain. And more than likely, they had some type of head injury, concussion, slip and fall. It doesn't take much. Everybody's brain's a little bit different too. So for one, what might affect one, that's not going to affect the next one the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you shining light on this. I think it's extremely important. I mean, we know it is. That the NFL wouldn't have spent billions of dollars on this if it wasn't an important issue.
Yeah.
Thank you for stepping out and being a voice for this side of it. I want to ask real quick, what you're talking about your facility that you're wanting to open up in St. Louis. What are some?
Yes.
What's that?
The first one will be in St. Louis. Yes.
Yes. First one in St. Louis. What are some things that people could do? How could they donate? How could they be a sponsor for it? What are some things that people can do to kind of help you with that process?
At this point, we really just need to raise capital, cash. Like I said, I have all the properties under my control. Like, these are my properties that I bought before I got sick. I'm just going to let the houses become the housing for the program. The building I'm buying from my dad, it was his old roofing company. He has 3 addresses on this building. We have everything we need there. I just need help with the build out. So raising capital. We have a crowdfunding out there, one man with a chamber. And we also a 501c3, so we can give write-off. We need partnerships. And like, this is really the pandemic of our lifetime because it's hiding in plain sight. And it's what's causing a lot of the violence in America. And not just here, but everywhere.
Yeah.
And I just need help getting equipment. Because once I have it and the building's up and running, we're going to throw solar up there. So all I have to do is bring people in and turn the machine on. It's really that simple. There's not a lot of maintenance on this thing. I've had this chamber going since 2022. There's no maintenance, just either it works or it doesn't work. If it's broken, then I have to replace it and bring another one in. But we need the hard chambers, the ones we can put 4 to 6 people in. Because if I have a 6-person chamber and I'm open 8 hours a day, that's 48 people who can go through that therapy per day. If I have 10 or 20 chambers. The number's just astronomical. It just grows. But this is something for not just the, I don't kind of ramble a little bit, but this is not just the military or athlete thing. It's just everybody, anybody who's hit that head at the proper time. And this is what it really is. It's not, that's the whole thing. It's not like just one population. That's what it looked like to everybody. We thought it was just NFL. No, but those doctors showed us what it is, but they didn't really tell us what it is, and now we know what this is. It's everywhere and it's affecting everybody. And that's why I want to open it for the American public for free. And I want just the American, just the public for free. I have people calling me now from the Ukraine. They're in those blast zones asking me to do partnerships with them. Like, I'm still trying to help the American people here. Like, I don't know how to even do that over there. But it's like they're finding it because they're understanding. And matter of fact, the last Olympics, they didn't show any bobsled crashes, but they start speaking about TBIs. Normally they show the carnage. Now, because of my case and me speaking out, they're a little bit more skeptical about that. And they're talking about more safety things. Athletes and bobsled athletes are actually boycotting some of the races. They boycotted the World Cup race because of unsafe athletes conditions. And people told me they were listening, but I didn't believe it but now I'm starting to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some ways that you kind of ease the skepticism of, a lot of times when people are like, send me money, people have gotten a little, I don't know about that. So what are some ways you're doing to kind of show that, hey, this is what this money is going for and stuff like that? Just kind of ease that skeptic mindset that a lot of people have.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. Well, we're going to be open, guys. Follow us. Like, guys, you heard my story. I was in dementia and I came out. I couldn't speak very well. And you will see it. Like, you can see this in athletes. You get to, eventually they'll start speaking kind of robotic, or you can see their eyes change. You can see the difference in their eyes from years prior. This stuff is really, it's predictable at this point, and you can see it in. My thing is, we're just going to open up and we're going to start treating right away. And if it can bring me out of dementia without doctors' helps. Remember, one doctor knew what I was dealing with. And when I came out of dementia after using this machine, he asked me, are you sure you want to keep using those things? They're so dangerous. Like, that let me know he didn't know anything what he was talking about. He's talking about the ones that you find in the hospitals that are 3 atmospheres, and so, yeah, these doctors really aren't educated on these things. But they are here to help with the TBIs. Look up treatnow.org, guys. I'm helping those guys as well. And like I said, we'll be open to the public. Like, this might come back and save your life, save your parents. How many of our parents go into dementia? I was there. And trust me, if I can come back, that's why I talk so much now, guys, because I couldn't talk for years. Like, now anybody want to put a sock in my mouth because, like, I know what this is, and no one needs to suffer. And if you're not sure about what I'm doing, look up treatnow.org. We're everywhere. I'm not a part of that organization, but I just help provide the information for each person in those different states to get their states qualified for treating veterans. But I'll be different. I'll be where you can come to me directly, and you don't have to be going to all these different regulations that are keeping people from getting the treatment. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will try to share all of the links and everything to these different programs, to your foundation, everything that you're doing and stuff like that on this episode as well.
I appreciate it.
But again, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on here, being vulnerable, being open about this, and most importantly, being brave enough to step out and start to speak up on this.
Well, man,
I think it's an important issue. And
yeah. Well, Joe Namath saved my life, and I'm really just paying it forward. Like, I never thought I could come back from where I was at. And if I can come back, guys, my routine was wake up every morning, figure out what the day is, what month we're really in, figure out that I'm not really 28 anymore, I'm actually in my 40s, and praying for death. That was my daily routine for a long time. And I'm telling you, there's a way back. And I'm not the only one doing it. Follow Joe Namath as well. He's the father. He's really the father of this movement, because without him, I wouldn't have found the treatment, and I had given up, But yeah, we're out here, and guys, and we're going to be moving from different cities. We're going to be everywhere. And if you need treatment, once we're open, if I have to fly you in, we want to be an all-stop service. Like, I don't want anybody worrying about what's going on back at home. We're going to come here and take care of you. And it's literally 30 days or less. And for me, it's one day. If you're like me, you got 2 or 3 days, and you're automatically going to feel better. For the rest of you, it's probably 30 days.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really such simple stuff. And it
Well,
doesn't
like I
hurt.
said,
There's no
we're
pain
just about
involved.
we're just about 3 hours south of where you're wanting to set up in St. Louis there. So, like I said before, we're looking forward to continuing to, be any help that we can be as far as this process goes and everything. And I look forward to possibly having you on again as the things start to get even closer, and
Yeah.
maybe even have you down here when you're over in
We're so close to being
Missouri.
open, guys. Like I said, everything's in place. We just need a little money for build out and some equipment.
hmm
Like we're not really that far away. We're so close, but it's really just raising that extra capital that we need so we can open those doors.
Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't wait to kind of continue the friendship that we've built here a little bit and
Yeah.
see what we can do for you, man. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming on and again being vulnerable and brave for us and kind of talking about this, and just I thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. All right, have a good one. We'll be in touch, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Sounds good. Sounds good.